Ali D is a rapper, an accomplished businessman, an award-winning producer, music executive, and above all, a friend. 3 specific things come to mind when I think of Ali. Creative, work ethic, and New Yorker. First 2 are self-explanatory, but why New Yorker? He really embodies everything about what it means to be a New Yorker. Not just living in, born and raised, but grit, but also refined. Firm, but also pliable. Definable, but also adaptable. Those are very distinct New York qualities, if you ask me. And I've got so much to ask him, so going to do that now. And I think you're going to enjoy it.
I'm blushing. Amazing. Thank you.
I mean, Ali, we're back.
I mean, I love it.
We're back.
I love it, man. And I love that we're in New York City.
We're in New York City.
You're back.
I'm back.
I was always here.
You were always here, but
You're back.
I'm back.
I love it.
And now we're on Newstalgia.
I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah, and you are actually the perfect person for this podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And you are the perfect person because there's so many things that we're doing today that are informed by what we used to do. And you are a guy
100%.
that has been doing it
Yep.
and is still doing it.
Yep. Which is crazy.
Right?
Yes.
What a time. When we're talking about creativity, when we're talking about business, when we're talking about the culture,
Mm-hmm.
you did all those things and you're still doing those things.
I'm blessed.
Last time I saw you, we were in Toronto with your artist, Hayes.
Yes.
She's incredible.
Thank you.
How's she doing?
Incredible. Amazing. She's right at this moment, this sort of inflection point. She's about to go.
I'll never forget when you played me her song, Just a Girl. We were sitting in your truck. I think we were somewhere like off maybe 44th Street or somewhere near Times Square. And you played the song and immediately I just looked at, I said, oh.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing?
That one. Yeah.
And, gosh, the song really is also the ethos of this podcast as well, where it's a nod to the past and informing the present because of what we know about the past.
Yes.
With that Gwen Stefani, No Doubt,
Yep.
ode
Yep.
that Hayes Warner did incredible justice to with that voice. You got to go check that out if you haven't listened to that song yet. Hayes Warner, Just a Girl. But she's good.
Amazing.
Yeah, and there's some more music on the way?
Oh, my Lord. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
EP coming. You're going to be, like I think I said earlier, the 4th person to hear the new single. It's incredible.
Okay, please don't break my neck with another banger.
No.
I got to get ready when I hear these songs.
Your head might fall off this time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Insane.
And I thank you for taking time to come have a conversation with us today. I would expect you to be in Dubai or something.
No. Listen, even if I was in Dubai, you say show up on 44th and 6th Avenue, I'm coming.
And he can do that, by the way.
Yeah, all good.
What's going on in Dubai these days?
Dubai's incredible.
Yeah.
We're very close to crossing the finish line.
Yeah.
On changing the music economy there and creating a complete ecosystem from a PRO to CMO, recording studios, record labels, publishing, really inspiring the local culture that and having them realize that they can have a career being a musician, songwriter, publisher, singer, performer.
Unbelievable.
They from being in the Middle East and their past culture, it's not like the US or Europe, where, growing up here in New York, if you want to be a singer, your parents put you in vocal classes and they support you and say, oh, you'll be on Broadway one day. That's going to be incredible. There, it's a hobby. It's not a profession per se. there are very few people that have it as a legitimate profession, and mostly they're making and earning a living by touring. So we're going to change all that.
You're essentially building a music city.
We are building a music city.
In Dubai.
In Dubai.
It's crazy. I mean, or I think it's actually poetic that a kid from a music city, New York City, is building a New York City or a music city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I didn't set out to do that. I didn't know until 3 years ago that I was even thinking about doing that. It was the entrepreneurial hustle spirit that when you're in a new town, state, country, and you're walking around saying, wow, this place is incredible. How do they not have this here? And then you realize that it doesn't exist in the entire region. And you say to yourself, this crazy idea of saying, I'm going to be the guy that brings it to this incredible country.
This moment right now, as it pertains to Dubai, compare it to like another moment. Like, what, you know, everyone says, you know, if you were in the room when the Netflix pitch was happening.
Right.
You know, if you were there when Steve Jobs was thinking about Apple.
Right.
What is this Dubai moment comparable to?
Well, you know,
is this like when they're putting up the Hollywood letters?
Yeah.
Like what is this?
I mean, like legitimately, it could be that. You know, I'm doing it because it's so much fun. It's the right thing to do. The people there need it. The byproduct of what will happen when it's successful, you know, you're never going to have to pay for another plane ticket ever again, my friend. It will be insane.
That's on the record, by the way.
Yeah. It will. Oh, by the way, 100%.
Yeah. Love that.
It will be next level. I, you know, have had so many peaks and valleys in, you know, 35 years of being in this business. This will be, there will certainly not be any financial valleys anymore when this thing is up and operational.
What's the goal of the collective of, you know, you and this group of people getting ready to do this in Dubai? What's the goal?
Legacy. I'm looking at this as, this is my kids' company. It's their kids' company. It's their kids' kids' company. This is for the youth there, for the talented people there that aren't getting heard, for them to know that they can create generational wealth. And what I mean by that is, by wealth, I don't mean, you know, millions of dollars in your bank account. I'm talking about an income stream that while you're sleeping, you're earning dollars. You've got royalties that can be passed on to your children, to your grandkids. They don't have that in that territory in the Middle East, in the Gulf states. That's the goal.
There's so many things about your origin story that make you the perfect person to do exactly what you say you're setting out to do. I don't know if you realize, if you kind of roll back the tape on your life, your accomplishments, your pedigree even, that make everything you just said that you want to do in Dubai a fitting goal for you. For example, you had a rap group.
Yes.
You know, you had a rap group not only when you were young, but in a time where that was not a very popular thing to do.
For sure not. I lost a lot of friends that I went to school with because I started having friends that they thought shouldn't be my friends.
When did Next School, your rap group, first come together? What year was that?
So really, it was '88 that the band got together. I formed it with Zone TDK, who was my dance partner.
Dude,
I used to dance with him on the street.
Those are legacy names, legendary names.
Yeah,
out there.
I mean, crazy. Float Committee, Transformers. These are all dance crews that are, you know, if you see guys now, you know, it's like they're the kids of the guys I used to dance with. You know, it's insane.
And these are New York City kids. This
Yes.
is Manhattan,
yeah,
right?
Bronx, Harlem.
Okay,
Yep.
Uptown.
Yep, Uptown.
Okay.
Yep.
And how does this group get together? I mean, are you guys refrigerator boxing it on the like what's happening?
100%. So,
by the way, for those who don't know that reference, the refrigerator box is how you learn to break dance.
Correct. Yeah, so you wouldn't kill yourself on
concrete.
On concrete. Yeah,
Exactly.
You can't really spin on concrete.
No.
Not well, at least.
Right.
You know, it all started when I was about 13. When I was 13, I fell in love with hip hop. I didn't know what it was. I grew up around Broadway, theatrical, doo-wop, classical music. I fell in love with disco. So I used to listen to 92.3 when it was like, I think it was Kiss FM.
Kiss FM back in the day.
Red Alert had, you know, the
cool
Rap
DJ
Attack.
Red Alert.
Yep, he had the Rap Attack on Saturday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And I would listen to it and I would record it on my cassette. And I was like, what, you know, like, what is this music? I didn't know what it was. You know, Michael Jackson had like not done the moonwalk yet. So it was not quote unquote pop culture yet. And I hear in the summer of '83, Sucker MCs by Run DMC, fall in love with the record and basically made the decision that this is what I want to do. So I sort of stopped, you know, doing ballet, stopped doing this, and through some bizarre occurrences in the city, met some break dancers that were very influential breakers and poppers and lockers, and started going uptown in '83. It was an incredible experience. I was, you know, I would take the 3rd Avenue bus up to 116th Street. After 96th Street, you know, I was the only white kid on the bus at that point. I was really skinny and scrawny at 13. You know, no gel in the hair or anything like that. You know, all my friends would meet me on the corner of 116th and 3rd.
Guys, I don't know how many New Yorkers are listening to this right now, but I mean, this is a really risky thing you're doing.
Oh, 100%. I mean, basically,
these years.
And I'll tell you, they would meet me in '83 because they'd say, we have to meet you because, like, if, you know, you get off this block and we're not here, you know, who knows what could happen. And it was, you know, I'll tell you, it was amazing because I always considered myself a student. I never knew more than anybody else. Never wanted to take advantage or capitalize on my friends or the music. I just wanted to be engulfed in it. I loved it. I just loved the adventures. I loved the battles and the stairways and the projects, or against a graffiti wall, or going to a house party. And, you know, because of what I was wearing, they were like, oh, you know, if you're wearing that, it means you're strapped. So they're going to frisk you for like 30 minutes. And, you know, learning that basically like a bubble vest with like a trucker flannel meant like you're strapped. And I'm like, that's so weird. But you know, like
it's
learning all the things. And
it's a dress code, literally.
Yeah, no, it was
a dress code.
It was a dress code. Them giving me, you know, Zulu codes that if by any chance they weren't there on the corner and I had to walk through the projects, if I ever got stopped, they're like, you know, Pisaki, chapter 3, Rocksteady Zulu. I'm like, okay. You know, like people laugh. They're
and
like,
when you use that code, it
worked.
I
did. Oh no, I had to a couple times.
Exactly.
And literally, it was like they were like, okay, you know, like I can pass. It was like the Jedi mind trick.
Wow.
You cannot enter. We
Right.
would like to enter. You can enter now. You know.
I want to ask you about 2 specific choices.
Yeah.
Number 1, the choice to study ballet.
Yes.
Is that your choice?
No, my mom.
That is your mom's choice.
Yes.
And your mom is a world-renowned opera singer.
A choreographer.
Excuse me.
Yes. So she basically, when I was 7 to 8 years old, so I used to study theater dance with my mom. She used to have a school and taught a class. And my mom, when I was about 7, said, you know, I need discipline. And I need to learn classical dance. I need to study ballet because it will teach me discipline. Because I was a natural. I didn't, you know, even though I studied with my mom, I kind of just went into it and just did it, you know. I got a scholarship at SAB, School of American Ballet at Juilliard, which is like hilarious. They ended up putting me very coincidentally, or I should say serendipitously, they put me in an all-girls class, which was great because at the time, I think I was probably the only straight kid there. So that was awesome.
That's
I
winning right there, right?
I mean, winning. I was like, oh my God, there's 20 girls here.
Great.
It was amazing. But after about a year of studying ballet, I started cutting class. I didn't like it anymore. I didn't want to do it. I didn't like being told what to do. Sort of like high school.
Sure.
I would literally call from the corner, hi, this is Ali's mother. He's out sick today. And I'd go to the arcades on Broadway and play video games while I was supposed to be in ballet.
So now the choice to do hip hop is clearly your decision.
That was my decision.
How does that go over with Mom?
They loved it.
And Dad,
they loved it. Listen, my mother loved it to the point where she started having all of my friends teach a class at her school on Fridays.
And this is the 80s?
This is the 80s.
Once again, unpopular decision.
Oh, highly unpopular, especially on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
And supported. I mean, your parents are special.
Oh, I mean, 100%. They were, my mom and dad were so supportive of my aspirations, my dreams, my goals, my friends, to the point where they helped support them. If some of them needed jobs, they got them some jobs, whatever needed to happen. My parents never questioned, what was I doing out till 3 a.m., and by the way, some of my friends were bad kids. Some of them were stick-up kids. They knew not to ask me to come. They were very respectful. They were like, hey, hang out here. My mom's going to make you some rice and beans and we'll be back in a little bit.
Yeah.
I knew what they were doing.
Don't come to this gig.
Yeah, no, I knew what they were doing. Yeah. But they were very respectful of me. They knew not to take me. It was an incredible, I call it a transfer of culture, because I would learn from them and then they would come down to my neighborhood and they would learn from me. I would take them to French restaurants. They'd look at the menu, like bewildered. They're like, duck. What do you mean there's duck on the menu? I was like, oh, you should try it. And like, yeah, it's duck. And, they never had duck,
wow,
on 123rd and Lenox.
I just keep going back to the years that this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And this probably looked really crazy.
It was crazy.
At the time,
I mean,
all of it.
It was a crazy time. People don't realize how crazy it was. We're talking about, guns everywhere, pit bulls roaming.
Oh, yeah.
The projects off leash. I don't have to tell you. And by the way, I also, one of the incredibly humbling lessons I learned was that growing up until I met my new friends, I never knew people lived like that, with such poverty. So that was a real lesson to me, and it gave me a real look at being responsible and what a dollar means.
Wow.
And so I grew up with that mentality of can't take anything for granted and be happy for what you got.
But this is also part of the pliability I was talking about earlier. Like, that experience or these experiences from a kid from the Upper East Side.
Yeah, yeah.
This most likely or definitely builds you into a person that could go anywhere.
I feel like that. What's funny is that, so growing up, when I was little, I used to think, I thought we were rich. I thought like my family was rich because we lived in a townhouse. I didn't know we were renting the townhouse. I thought we owned the townhouse. Right. We were renting it. I thought we were rich because we had sort of all the accoutrements that you would have living on the Upper East Side. what I realized as I got older is that my parents just busted their butts to make sure we had whatever we needed to, be in this sort of New York fraternity, to be successful, to make friends how you needed to make friends. And hopefully you went off to college or university with them and formed a business with them. And next thing you know, you have Apple or whatever, right?
Right.
So I had a newfound respect for them as hustlers, to bust their butts to make sure that the family had what we had. And that's what made me be pliable and allowed to have the experience that I had, because I lost a lot of friends that I went to school with by getting into hip hop. I started dressing differently, looking differently, and they were like, oh, he's a bad influence, because immediately they thought I was either a criminal or into drugs, a bad influence. Meanwhile, I was the one that like wouldn't date a girl if she smoked. You know what I mean? Because like her, I knew it was bad for your health and her hands smelled like cigarettes. But like I was the one being like, don't do drugs, don't smoke weed, don't do any of that. Meanwhile, my other friends, who obviously were not like real friends, were dropping like flies because their parents were like, don't hang out with Ali. He's a bad influence. He hangs out with, criminals. And
is there a moment of redemption? Like, once the next school.
It's now.
I mean,
yeah.
I feel like there's the radio.
Yeah, the
mixtapes are on the streets now.
Totally. Listen, the moment of redemption is when, I bump into somebody and they're like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, just trying to survive. And they go back to their office and they Google and they see, whatever 300 films and and they call me up. They're like, survive. They're like, oh, sorry. Yeah, you're surviving, all right.
Right.
Hey, listen, I think this. When I go to a function or whatever, and somebody says, what's going on? How you doing? Or what do you do? I tell them I trade stocks on Wall Street, and then the conversation's over because I become such a boring guy.
Man, that's like. So when I introduce you to people, do I need to lead with stocks or do I need to lead with like this man pen soundtracks that you're listening to today? Like what do you want me to lead with?
Well, look, listen, it's so funny when a 22-year-old comes up to my office, a drummer or songwriter or musician, and they see the posters on the wall. Literally, they're like, "You're the soundtrack of my youth."
Exactly.
Literally, they're like every movie, every Disney movie, the Chipmunks. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they're like, I know every one of your songs, and I had no idea. And I'm like, well, I like it like that. I'd rather them discover it themselves than, I'm not one to, brag or boast.
No, I mean, it's not about bragging, but at some point you do realize that you got something. I mean, you got a rap group when little to nobody's rapping.
Yeah.
And then you pivot that into a career writing some really memorable stuff. I mean, Super Mario Brothers rap.
Well, listen, that was fun. I mean, and I just think it's funny because, on my Spotify artist account, I remember like before that film dropped on like that Friday, I just went on my Spotify account. I had like, 1,000 monthly listeners. And then like after that weekend, it was like 1.1 million monthly listeners. I'm like, this is like hilarious.
So when I think about the Super Mario Brothers theme song,
yeah,
I'll tell you what comes to my mind and my body. It's a visceral reaction, actually. When I think of dun, 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 dun,
yeah, yes,
dun, I almost get anxious.
That's funny
because I think of my cousins in the basement fighting over the Nintendo controller.
I get it.
I think of, what board am I going to get stuck on and lose all my lives on?
I get it. Right. So you get anxious.
I get anxious when I hear that theme song. And I think that's a good thing, from a sonic branding point of view.
Yes.
If you hear something and it doesn't make you feel something, it's not quite doing the thing.
Well, by the way, I mean, isn't that why we do everything we do? Is for a feeling.
Yes,
is
for a
for
feeling.
An emotion.
So, when you're talking about a theme song that's so iconic, like the Super Mario Brothers theme song, and then you get the call.
Yeah.
To actually put words.
Yeah.
Well, how does that actually happen? Like,
so Mike Knobloch, who's the president of music for Universal Pictures,
right,
calls me up. He's like, "I got something for you. You're the only guy that can do it." First of all, I don't know if I love that or hate that because I'm like,
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, no, but also I'm like, okay, so I'm the only guy that can do like an '86 style rap. I'm like, I'm that old. I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
So
that's either a compliment,
yes,
or
a real diss,
a super mad hard diss, right?
100%.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I literally said to him, I'm like, I can do other things too. It's not just I'm the '80s rap guy.
Nah, but we went that '80s rap shit, right?
Yeah. No. He wanted the '80s rap shit. I gave him the '80s rap shit. It was all good. Had no idea it would be what it became. I mean, like literally, I can go on the Spotify artist account right now, and there's 90,000 people listening to it, like
now
every second.
Wow.
I mean, it's like insane. It's got I don't know 60 million
but that's
streams.
A scary phone call. I mean, at the time, because that movie came out like a couple of years ago. Like what year was it?
2 years ago?
2 years ago, right?
Maybe not even.
Not even
like
2
a year and a half ago.
So
one of the biggest movie releases ever, by the way.
My point.
Animated films. I think maybe the biggest.
So when you're told that you're going to write the lyrics to that iconic.
Yeah, but I didn't know. Listen, it's the same thing with Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
When Pitch Perfect started production.
Yeah.
Universal Pictures didn't really care about it. It was all about the production company that was working on it. Nobody knew it would be the film it would be. Alvin and the Chipmunks. Nobody knew Alvin and the Chipmunks would be a hit film.
You didn't know that these would be hit films?
No.
I mean, like these are
No. So Alvin and the Chipmunks, when I got hired to do Alvin and the Chipmunks, so I'll tell you, it's a good story. So I'm sitting with Mike Knobloch when he was at Fox.
Okay.
And I go, we're having lunch, and I'm like, what do you got? And he tells me a couple films that got greenlit. He's like, oh, and Alvin and the Chipmunks just got greenlit. And literally, I'm like, oh, I need to be on that movie. And he's like, well, we kind of have like, a bunch of A-listers reserved, already for the songs. He's like, maybe I can get you one cut on it. Why don't you go back to New York and do 2 demos? Show me what The Witch Doctor would be if it was done today.
Okay.
And, another one.
Legendary song for that cartoon.
100%.
Crazy.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
And as a production student, I know all about the record that they recorded it at half speed.
I sped it up.
I already knew it as a production technique. I already knew.
Right.
So I was really intrigued. Go back to New York, make the demos. By the way, I don't make demos. Full blown record. Harmonies, record everything at half speed. Do it up. And then Fox calls me, and they go, "We'd like to fly you first class to meet the filmmakers." It's the first time they ever called me and said they're flying me first class. So I'm like, oh,
this must be good news. Right?
Okay. Yeah. So, I must have done something right.
Right.
So I go out for the interview with the filmmakers and the owners of the property. And I'm literally sitting on a big bench, and there are other people on the bench too. And everyone's going in one at a time. And I'm sitting there waiting for my turn. They're coming out, hey, okay, good luck, and they walk out. I go in and meet everybody, and they go, the owner of the property goes, "Tell us what kind of record, if you could make any record for this movie, what kind of record are you going to make?" And I said, "I'm going to make a hit album." I get hired. Everyone else said, "We're going to make a hit kids record." Kids record.
Okay.
They didn't want to make a kids record. They wanted to treat this like
an actual
project. Like the Chipmunks it's In Sync. It's Backstreet Boys. It's the Chipettes are Pussycat Dolls. Destiny's Child.
Yeah.
A real act. Just so happens that they're furry rodents.
Right.
Animated. And yes, kids, it will resonate with kids.
Right.
But they wanted a real album. So when I got hired for it, Fox made the deal with Fox. They did not know it was going to be the film it was going to be. Obviously, hit film, hit soundtrack, 2.6 million albums, physical albums, like when CDs were being sold. And on the second film, they hire me for the second film. I'm the executive music producer. And I remember going into a production meeting on the second film and talking to a friend saying, oh, I'm going to call you in. I need an hour. I'm just going into this quick meeting, an hour, and then I'll be out of the meeting. 4 hours later, I'm in this production meeting. Now Fox knows this is a hit franchise of theirs. It's a hit property. Now they're overanalyzing the music.
Oh, geez.
So on the first soundtrack, I had 9 original songs, 4 covers. Second soundtrack, 6 original songs, 6 covers. Third soundtrack, 1 original song, 9 covers. And subsequently, the records did less and less and less in terms of sales. And I believe it's because it was overthought, overanalyzed, and they just didn't, go with the emotion.
They didn't let you use your secret sauce.
Yeah,
right.
Correct.
Right.
But all good.
It almost sounds like you became, you did make a pivot to soundtracks pretty heavy.
Yes.
Juice, another.
Oh yeah. That was my first foray.
Right. That's a legendary
into soundtracks. Yes.
And if you didn't know, you're looking at the Juice soundtrack producer here. That was the first hip hop movie to have an original.
Yes. And you know what's funny is I tell people this and then they get it because they don't really understand. When I say this is actually the first real hip hop soundtrack for a film. And they're like, oh no, what about Break-In and Beat Street and this? And I go, all those songs were done already. They were licensed for the movie.
They were licensed for the movie. These are original songs just for the film.
Correct. Just for the film. Every song is original. There was no song that was out already or done.
And I bring that up because I feel like it's the same approach you used.
Yes.
You said, hey, I'm actually going to do original stuff.
Yes.
For this film.
Yes. 100%. By the way, on the second film, I remember when, our version of Single Ladies was out. Kids thought Destiny's Child or Beyonce covered the Chipettes.
That's crazy.
Literally, they're like, I remember my kids were like, Daddy, Beyonce did your song, your Chipette song. I was like, no, it's the other way around. So what I always tried to explain is that, especially for film, when you make a song and create music that's carrying plot line, it doesn't have to be, a known song. It's just got to carry emotion. And when you're in the theater or in your home theater or at home watching it on pay-per-view, whatever, you feel it. It's not about necessarily the familiarity of the record.
Sure. I feel like, so going back to Juice, I feel like that time in music and movie soundtracks, you may have popped off something really major because after that, movie soundtracks became so important.
Oh, big.
Like Above the Rim.
Oh, 100%.
Mo Money.
100%.
Boomerang.
100%.
Like I can go Poetic Justice.
All of it.
Like movie soundtracks became an integral part of movie releases, specifically in the urban hip hop and R&B space.
Well, look, there were a lot of hits that spun off that record. Uptown Anthem, Kane's Enough Respect,
Dog,
Know the Ledge, Don't Be Afraid.
We met Tony Braxton.
No, all of them. But like, listen, Don't Be Afraid.
Off the Boomerang soundtrack, right?
I think it was it a number 1 R&B record on, or certainly Aaron Hall. It was Aaron Hall's biggest solo record.
Yes,
was Don't Be Afraid. And I'll say this too, and I don't mind saying this.
Okay,
I'll say it right here.
Okay,
Don't Be Afraid. Aaron Hall and that record started the whole thing. Aaron Hall's, nickname was, Mr. Nasty.
Right.
That record was the first R&B record that hit, that really was, the subject matter was pretty.
It was nasty.
Pretty raw.
Yeah.
He was basically saying, you're a virgin.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. It's not going to hurt. And it was.
How did that land back then? I
People loved it. But here's what I'm saying. In my opinion, Jodeci.
Yeah.
Your man who's in prison right now.
Right, dude.
Like I don't think that they would be around because that record made it okay to be like raw like that.
How do you feel about that?
I feel great about it.
Yeah.
Look, I remember when I told you I had a couple, revelations or not revelations. My perspective has changed on things.
Yes.
So it's funny. When I talk to someone like yourself and my history, or I meet somebody else and we talk about my history, it's funny because I'm not like a famous guy. I'm like under the radar. Meanwhile, I believe I've probably been a part of some of the most important things that have happened.
It's pretty wild
in
actually.
the music business.
And I'm hoping that by now someone is Wikipedia or Googling or IMDbing you and they're just like, what?
Listen, I'm going to tell you something funny.
Yeah.
So in 1996, a lawyer calls me up, Fred Davis. He's Clive Davis's son. He's was a big attorney. And he says, hey, I got a deal for your group, Intrigue. And I go, with who? He goes, Doug Morris. I go, Doug Morris? Didn't Doug Morris just get canned from Warner Music Group? He goes, yeah, but he's got a new thing with Edgar Bronfman, and it's amazing. It's called Rising Tide Entertainment. I go, okay. It's like a real thing? Yeah, it's a real thing. I go meet Doug and Edgar and Daniel Glass, and we do the deal for the band. Rising Tide then changes their name to Universal Records. Universal Records, the first act signed to Universal Records was my band called Intrigue. I had the first act ever on Universal Records. The largest music group in the world was my band. And I should say, I don't want to say I helped them pick their logo, but I'm in the conference room with them at the Hit Factory because they didn't even have offices yet.
Right.
Doug Morris slides over 20 images of the Universal logo. He's like, which one do you like? I'm like, I love that one. They're like, you know what? I think that's the one we like too. We're going to go with that one.
So when you see that logo like up the street,
I'm like,
when you drive past the Universal building,
I helped pick that.
That logo's everything. To Canada, Universal Canada.
They're the biggest music group in the world.
They are the one. And they're the one that survived too, right?
The first act that they've ever signed.
Yeah.
The first act that they inked to a contract was my group Intrigue. I have the first act.
That's crazy.
Ever on the world's largest music group.
So,
So it's like things like that.
So how do you? All right. So the record labels, the business is different now.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
So when you look back at how things started and where we are now from a label perspective.
Yeah.
Well,
look, labels now, unfortunately, they're not developing artists. They haven't developed artists in 15 years. It's a singles driven business. Now it's a streaming business. Everything starts out with the DSPs. They hope that it blows up on the DSPs. If it starts getting traction on DSPs, they move it to terrestrial.
Right.
Terrestrial, by the way, is still the way to becoming a household name.
Thank you.
There's
bills to pay, bro.
There's no streamers that are household names.
I hear you.
You got guys that are doing 200 million streams. They can't pay their rent.
It's crazy, and you've got the benefit of perspective, incredible perspective.
Yes.
And, you ask kids now if radio still matters.
Oh, yeah. No, kids don't think radio matters.
And they don't think it matters, but you're the guy saying that, like you're actually still working radio
100%.
With records that you're
100%, because what, New York, L.A., major metropolitan cities.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, terrestrial means less. Still means a lot, but it means less. When you go to, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, WKRZ, that's kids' jam. They're not driving and picking up new BMWs, Mercedes with 6-month free Sirius. They're driving their parents' 1998 Honda Accord that still got a cassette deck,
it's crazy,
in the dash with radio. So they want free radio, right? They don't want to pay $20 a month,
right,
for a subscription based. So Their radio station, it's local. They wrap all their vans still. They do clubs. They do promotions. They have ladies' night at the bar down on the corner. So terrestrial still matters.
Everything you've done seems to come from a really real place. Like, why you've done the soundtrack game, why you even got into hip hop in the beginning. Do you think people still have that real ethos for why they're getting into the game? I guess that's a loaded question, but
well,
I wonder if it's just,
you want my truthful answer?
Truthful answer.
I would say very, very small percentage of people that you will meet today that have that within their soul.
Because now it's like music is trendy,
Yeah,
you did all that stuff when it wasn't trendy to do so.
Right. Correct.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
If you want to get into hip hop right now, if you want to be an artist, it's like, of course you do, right? But you did it when it was like, why are you doing that?
Well, and think about the transition that creative industry is going to go through with AI, right? Which is already starting to happen. So, you've got the youth where it's become so difficult to break through with the streaming services. If you're a musician, if you're a songwriter, if you're a band, if you're an artist, solo artist, it's so difficult to break through now. And radio, terrestrial radio, won't look at an artist unless you have 4 or 5 million streams a week. And by the way, they still may not play you because it may not be a radio song.
Right.
So it's become more difficult. And what I found is that people don't want to put the work in. They would rather, do something menial or that's light work where they can make a couple bucks, but people don't really want to put the work in.
And once again, wrapping it back to your beginnings, you did things that, you got to really want to do that, If you're driving up to like 113th Street,
I never did it for the money.
you gotta really
look,
want to do that.
Look. Sparing the gory details of peaks and valleys of 35 years.
Yes.
I'm amazed I'm here, to be honest with you. I'm amazed that I made it past my first record deal. I'm amazed I made it past my second record deal. I'm amazed that I worked on the Juice soundtrack and worked with the Bomb Squad. I'm amazed that I got a third record deal. I'm amazed that I got a soundtrack to produce. I'm amazed that I produced the Cup song. I'm amazed that I worked with Aretha Franklin. I'm amazed that I worked with Miley Cyrus. After every one, I'm like, I'm done. I'm amazed I won an American Music Award. When I won the American Music Award, I literally was like, what job do I have Monday? Because does this mean I'm over? Because I've been like validated.
Wow.
I thought I'm like over. I got actually really scared.
Wow.
So it's never been about that. It's been about how do you keep going? And the only way to keep going is to work.
When you look at the culture, specifically hip hop now.
Yeah.
And you look at it back then, there's an argument that people are like, oh, everything's different now. We lost so much. The kids don't know what the hell's going on. But from your perspective, what have we held on to? What still remains in the culture? And that might be a hard question to
No.
answer.
I listen, I don't think it's a hard answer, actually. I think that,
does something still remain?
I think that the hip hop youth, if I was to be so bold to say what they don't have is they don't have a sense of family, loyalty, honor, and respect. And I know that sounds crazy. Maybe some do, but in general, people's teams are switching up. New managers, new agents. Oh, that dude can get me a bigger bag. They're doing side hustles, side deals, side balling over here.
Wow.
Back in the day, it was kind of like, this is my crew. These are my dudes.
Yes.
You know, you'd lie on a stand for them.
Well, there's also not a lot of options, right? Because
but
where else are you gonna go if you're doing this?
But also it's just the way it was.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like it's not. Listen, this is why, like, you know, mob movies are so popular, right? Because people like the sense of family and loyalty and trust and honor, and there's so little of that now that, you know, when you hear about it or see it, you know, you're like, it's intoxicating.
Yeah.
Because you know, you haven't necessarily experienced
No, that's a good
it,
point, man.
you
Like,
know?
I always wanted someone to roll up into like a diner in Queens with me and like have my back like
Right.
De Niro, you know, like
No, 100%.
you know, I kind of had it, but they wouldn't have gone as hard, you know what I'm saying?
And you know, as we get older,
Yeah.
Our real circle becomes a lot smaller,
Yeah.
right? Because people fall by the wayside. And you know, I think that it's that's sort of what I miss in hip hop now. Now, you know, look, lyrically, I mean, is it the same shit? Sure, it's the same shit. It's all about what I got, and I'm better than this, and I'm gonna, you know, hit your bitch, and you know.
But that's the street. That's life in the streets, right? I mean, it just kind of.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
no.
right.
But I mean, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
You know, so that hasn't changed, you know, at all.
You know what has changed though? White boys are deep in hip hop right now.
For sure.
Like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
and how does that make you feel? Do you feel like you were a trailblazer, like, or
well,
do you...
so I listen. I did the math, and if my math is correct, I was the 5th white rapper signed.
Yeah.
To
Really?
come out. Yep.
Who are the 4?
Well, if you consider them rappers, you know, like Vanilla Ice.
Okay.
Marky Mark.
Okay.
Beastie Boys.
Wow.
Third Base. And then me. You know, in terms of like major labels.
Damn.
You know, you can't really count Curious George.
Right.
You know, he was Hispanic.
I'm trying to think if there's any. No, that's a pretty dope stat, actually.
Yeah, I'm 5th. I was 5th. 89. I was 5th.
Search is still around.
Search is still around. Yep.
Beastie Boys are kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, I mean they're legend. I mean,
right,
you know,
they're legends. Yeah,
100%.
But I feel like Search is still pretty active.
Search is active. You know, Search is funny. I mean, I met him twice because he's friends with my old agent, and you know, coming up, I never knew Search.
Search is from Far Rock. So he's from my town. So.
I never like knew him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's funny, you know, Search, from what I heard, never really liked me.
Okay.
Because I always found a way to switch up and get into the next bigger thing, whether it was a production or a new deal or I've got a new company or whatever it was. And so Search, from what I heard, I don't know, you know, it was always like, you know, damn, D got more lives than a cat. You know, he was always curious to find out, like, how did I, you know, figure it out? You know what I mean?
White boy rap beefs. Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, look, I mean, I had them. Listen, I had a big beef with young black teenagers back in the day.
Oh, snap. Okay.
You know,
was
it
over
was,
a girl, or
what's that?
was it over a chick or?
No, it was over a song.
Okay.
Yeah, it was over a song that they wanted that turned out to be my single. And I was like, you can't have that song. They did a song called like Who's Got the Flavor.
Okay.
Mine was Who's the Flavor. They did a song called Who's Got the Flavor. And it was like a little beef. Like I remember doing an interview with Sway and Tech, and Sway and Tech were like, hey, so what's up with you and young black teenagers? I was like, oh, you know.
It's like back in the day.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you see cats like the Post Malones and the G-Eazys, and I mean, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel like, hey, we did it? Or is that like what's the reaction? I mean, it's a good thing, more people in the game, right?
I mean, 100%.
Right.
Listen.
But I mean, I guess the means of getting there seems a little different because they're not riding through Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, definitely not.
Right.
I mean, look, you know, in my opinion, when you look at the players that are white in hip hop,
yeah,
you know, maybe with the exception of Eminem,
yeah,
I don't see any of them wanting to, go hang out, in the hood,
Right.
and like legitimately hang out.
It's
in the
not
hood.
even really necessary.
It's not necessary.
Well, I mean, you just go on Spotify now, right?
Well, yes, but when I think back of my career, the hip hop game, I learned so much from the physical experience and the time that I spent. You can't learn that in a book. You can't learn that from listening to music. You can't learn that from watching music videos, watching videos about how groups came up. You have to be there. And there's just certain things that you learn that become a part of your DNA. And one of them was I just loved the culture so much, and I just wanted to absorb it and learn and be a part of it, not say, oh, I know more than the next person, or I want to capitalize on this. I just wanted to have fun.
You were really down for it.
Yes.
I think because you're my boy.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people would look at a white dude who was so heavy in hip hop and question
totally
the authenticity
100%.
and question the why.
Yeah.
You're my boy, so I never question that because I actually know.
Look, I here's, I guess, the validation that I get, and that is all that I need.
Yeah.
Look, when Dana Dane fucks with me, when Kane fucks with me,
word.
when G-Rap fucks with me,
right?
When Keith Shockley fucks with me, Chuck D,
that's my man right there.
Run was my spiritual mentor for 6 years. Like, I know who I am.
Yeah.
I know what I've done, good, bad, and the ugly, all good. That's all I need. Funny thing, when I'm up in my office and, Fabio Foreign comes up to, look at the studio, whatever. And he's looking at me like, who the hell is this, dude?
Right.
Whatever. Whatever.
He may not know, right?
No, but
on face value, it's like, right?
Listen, 100%. But here's the thing that what's funny is that, like, I got the.
You're probably waiting for the moment you're like, oh,
no. But it's like when people meet me and they're like, oh well, I don't want to tell you about, like, the gun that I used to have. And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm like, you
can't faze me, right?
Not like there's nothing that what I've seen and done, but. So, like, when a guy like that's up in the studio, I meet him, and he's obviously looking at me like, oh, this is the studio owner or whatever, and Lord knows how I got the studio in his head. And so I go, listen, let's bypass all the conversation. I said, can I just bring you over to this one record plaque over here on the wall? I'm just going to show you, and then we don't have to talk anymore. And so I show them my Juice soundtrack, my gold record. And they see it, and they see my name, and then they're like, oh, got it. They're like, and I'm like, enough respect, know the ledge, don't be afraid. They're like, wow. And they're like, bowing, they're like,
So if you haven't done so already, I'm going to put a bow on the whole career thus far in the body of work. And I feel like everything you've done, from riding through the hood just to, to go freestyle and break dance, to actually forming a group, to saying, hey, let me help put sound to these movies.
Yes.
To then saying, I come from a music city. I'm going to build a music city over there. I feel like you're a dude that's just driven by an insatiable passion.
Yes.
For the culture.
100%.
That's really where it all comes from.
So I'll tell you, it's interesting. So in Dubai.
Yeah.
Very interesting fact. So, the country is 52 years old. So the UAE is a new country.
It's a blink.
It's a blink.
Yeah.
Going super fast. In 3 years, I've seen it grow and the difference in people.
Mm-hmm.
And my partners there are salt of the earth, incredible people. I mean, I adore them. They're not used to dealing with,
Right.
the underbellies,
yes,
if you will,
yeah.
of
It's a whole different culture for them.
There is no street.
Mm-hmm.
They were Bedouins in the desert, but there was no street.
It's a sandy path.
It's
not a street,
yeah, there's
right?
no street.
Right.
So it's interesting. So, in our dealings, we have run into a couple, slightly shady individuals.
Sure.
I see it right away. And I'll take them aside and I'll say, listen, I know you guys don't know show business.
Yeah.
But something weird there's something not right going on over here. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I'm 100% correct.
Okay.
So it's funny because I believe that the reason I went through everything I went through was for this day in a foreign country to build something that's never been there, that people have tried to build before, by the way.
Okay.
So this is not, it's not an original idea. It's an original idea for me. It's not an original idea for people there and for them. They've been thinking about this for 20 years. Nobody has found the right combination of private person from maybe the US or Europe connecting with the right local Emirati, passionate, creative people to bring it all together, to convince companies like BMI and Universal Music Group to come to a foreign territory and build something that's never been there before. So I believe that skill set I learned when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, going up, hanging out in the Lexington Avenue projects.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Ali, thank you, bro.
Listen, thank you. And we got to do this again.
Oh, many times.
Because I feel like we're like on chapter.
Oh, we've only hit chapter 2.
Totally. Totally.
We've only scratched the surface, but there's a lot of history and future history to get through.
I'd love to share it with you.
And come back and do that with me.
And you too.
100%.
Love it.
All right.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Cool.